Hi, welcome to Peralta Matters. I'm Jeff Heyman sitting in for Jay Calhoun today. He'll be back soon. In today's program, we're going to honor Peralta Colleges retirees, the folks that have really made a difference in our students' lives. Faculty, staff, people who have taught, who have labored over the years to help students get an education at the four Peralta Colleges. I'm joined in this segment by Jerry Herman, who's president of the Peralta Retirees Organization. He's been with Laney College for 42 years, and he's also president of the Peralta Retirees Organization. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know that you've got, over those 42 years, a lot of stories to tell. But I want to ask you first off, tell folks out there about the Peralta Retirees Organization, how it got founded and what it does.
Well, the Peralta Retirees Organization is a group that represents retirees from Peralta. We were founded about 7 years ago as an organization to protect retirees' rights and the contractual obligations that Peralta has to retirees. And we've got probably about 350 dues-paying members, and it's a flourishing organization. We'd like the rest of the retirees to join us, and we, as well as being protective of our contractual rights, we also have social events, and we contribute a significant amount of money each year to the Peralta Scholarship Fund, and we give a $1,000 scholarship to a student at each of the four Peralta colleges. We have a website. It's peraltaretirees.org. Okay. So I would hope that any retirees out there who are not members would contact us and join.
Okay, great. Now, the Peralta Community College District, which has four colleges, Berkeley City College, College of Alameda, Laney, and Merritt College, was founded in 1964. When did you join?
1963.
So how could that be if we started in 64?
Well, this is a good segue into the story that I want to tell. In 1963, when I was hired, Laney, it was called Oakland City College at that point, and there were two campuses, Merritt and Laney. Mm-hmm. Laney was the trade technical campus. Merritt was liberal arts. Within a year, there was a vote of the people of the district to form our own community college district and divest ourselves from the Oakland Public Schools, which had jurisdiction over us. That was a momentous occasion. It meant that we were our own district. It meant that we could have more campuses. It meant that a whole difference for Laney, because Laney, instead of being just a trade school at the time, was going to become comprehensive, and it was going to become the anchor campus of the district, which was a radical change, because Merritt always thought of itself as the campus and so forth. So Laney's fate really did change at that point. It was interesting when I came to Laney that the minority community was barely represented, and that changed significantly for the better over the years. There was a bond issue, and it won, and that allowed for four campuses to be built. Of course, they didn't start right away, so the amount of money allocated was one thing, and then the costs increased. Peralta wanted to sort of set a precedent, and so they put an affirmative action clause for their contractors in the various contracts.
And of course, this is happening right in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement.
Right in the middle of Civil Rights Movement, 1965-66. This was 1968 when the contracts were about to be awarded. The contractors and other people working on the budget started saying things like, you know, if you have this affirmative action clause in your contract, it's going to cause delays, it's going to cost more money. So we would suggest that you get it out, and then we could proceed with more efficiency. There was a special board meeting that took place in June of 1968, And it was 5 days after Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated, the same year that Martin Luther King was assassinated. The board met, and for all intents and purposes, it looked like they were going to revoke that clause for affirmative action just to get the campuses built. Well, in that particular meeting, the most conservative member of the board, his name was Carl Deckow, as the debate was going on, began to speak, and tears came to his eyes as he said, "There is a legacy of Martin Luther King, there's a legacy from Bobby Kennedy, and I don't want to see that legacy die. So I am going to vote to keep the affirmative action clauses in the contract. I don't care how much it costs." That was done. The campuses were built, and it set up a terrific precedent for Peralta.
Wow, that's quite a story. Now, the Peralta Colleges have always had a sort of social justice, I wouldn't say agenda, but a mission to educate those that couldn't get educated in four-year institutions and things like that. Over the years, how have you seen it change? How have you seen students change? How have you seen the district change and society?
Well, when I started in 1963, there were very few minority students at Laney especially. And as a matter of fact, there was one program when Peralta became a community college district in and of itself. There was one program, a vocational program, which I will not name, that pulled out of Laney because they feared that they would not be able to discriminate any longer and keep African American students out of their programs, which they had been doing for years.
Yeah.
So that changed radically, thank goodness, as the years went on.
Yeah, things have changed. Now, in the classroom, can you pinpoint any sort of changes in learning habits, changes in I mean, you know, when you were teaching English back in 1965, for example, it's not the same as when you were teaching in 1995 or 2000. I mean, how did things change in the classroom?
Things changed in the classroom, well, in interesting ways. First of all, things changed in me and my perceptions, so that's one thing you have to realize. The student body became more diverse. It became more interesting. The students themselves were more motivated. And as the years went by, the average age of the students in community college in general, and at Laney in Peralta, I think in particular, went up. So you had students, the average age I think was 27 or 28. And I always told people, you know, who would you rather teach? An 18-year-old who's just come out of high school, who doesn't have any life experience, who hasn't matured, or the same person 10 years later who's been out in the world, who has had a job, who may be raising a family, and who is now matured and who is now totally motivated to get an education, to get through college. Believe me, it was always the latter that I would choose.
No, I bet. Well, listen, we're going to have to wrap up this segment, but I want to give you a chance to let people know about the Peralta Retirees Organization, PRO. Where can they get in contact with you if they happen to be a retiree and they don't know about your organization?
Well, we do have a website. It's peraltaretirees.org. Okay. And you can get in touch with me by using that website. It's very extensive. It gives you lots of information about retirees' rights and benefits, as well as our newsletter, which is a really good newsletter.
Okay. Well, Jerry Herman, thank you very much. 42 years at Laney. We really appreciate your service. This is Peralta Matters. We'll be back right after this break.
I thought I was being sneaky by staying up late on Saturday nights to watch TV. I learned a bunch of moves, like the snake and crane and the drunken monkey, and sometimes got out of bed and did them right in the middle of the floor while everyone else was asleep.
Brandon Hughes is a young, talented author who has just published his very first book, The Man Behind the Curtain. Born and raised in East Oakland, Mr. Hughes took creative writing courses at Laney College.
Going to Laney College, I went to Laney for a semester because I wanted to get in a writing class with other writers. And so I got into a creative writing class with Jackie Graves, and we got to workshop our writing, you know, some of our pieces with other writers, but at the same time we got to do a lot of exercises too. And exercises sometimes can inspire the uninspired, and it could, you know, it could really get you to create something that you never created, which I did. I created a few things in there just based off an exercise that we did in class, you know. A lot of the things that I wrote in there, I was excited about. You know, I came up with the concept for the story in 2003. I was sitting down with a friend and I just came up with it, and maybe a few months later I just wrote it all out. But I didn't pick it up again until 2008 or 9, I think 2009. And you know, something about it just spoke to me.
Though the novel is a work of fiction, the story is told with an intimacy that makes it feel like you're reading an autobiography.
This character who grew up, I used the scenery of where I lived in this story. On 100, you know, I used the scenery 100th and Walnut and all that. You know, I lived on 101st and Walnut. It didn't help that my mom made me and my annoying little brother get up at 9 the next morning for Sunday school. I hated Sunday school. "Corey," she said, fastening that stupid top button on my collar shirt because I couldn't do it, "you're gonna stop being cranky when it's time for church. If you can get happy about baseball, you can get happy about Jesus. Now put on this clip-on tie before I clip your behind."
The Man Behind the Curtain is a positive view of Oakland, which is a rarity these days. The book is narrated by Corey, a feisty 7-year-old, who comes from a close-knit family in a neighborhood where humor and wisdom prevail. But when temptation is put before Corey, he is forced to test his limits to survive in a situation that endangers his life.
Family is important in this story. It's my baby, one and only child.
Probably the best thing about the book is the way that family and community are both vividly portrayed.
My childhood, I just grew up around people who really cared about me. There's so much love there. You know that everybody's looking out for each other, even if some people are more talkative than others, or some people say the wrong thing. We know who these people are in our family, but we still accept them. They understand each other. And I learned a lot of that in my life, you know, being an African American, and just how so many people in my community were down for me. You know, I was 7. So why did I have to go to church and be in a room with my 4-year-old brother and a bunch of other little kiddies and a Sunday school teacher named Mama Cece who talked to you like a baby? I'm just proud of the fact that I even published a book. I'm proud of the fact that I finished it, you know, from beginning to end.
Welcome back. This is Peralta Matters. I'm Jeff Herman sitting in for Jay Calhoun. In today's program, we're honoring Peralta Colleges retirees. We have a number of people with us from the Peralta Retirees Organization. We just spoke with Jerry Herman, the president. And now I'm joined by Jay Quesada. Jay, thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
Well, we appreciate all the work you've done over I think you were at College of Alameda for 25 years, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you for all your work. You must have seen a lot in those 25 years.
Oh, golly. I worked in the mail room, and it wasn't just the mail. It was duplication. I did all the duplicating for the instructors or tests and all the papers that needed to be run off. And at one time, we just had a mimeograph machine. So you could imagine. We graduated then to Xerox machines, and as the new models would come out, we'd have a different one and a bigger one. And it was complicated learning the new machinery, but all in all, it worked out well.
Tell us a little bit about your background. You're a California native. You graduated from high school in Oakland.
Yes, went to McClymonds High School, graduated from there, and I got married fairly early, and I had 7 sons, and we lived in Oakland for a long time, and then always wanted to move to Alameda, and which we did. And so my husband at first had a gas station, and he was a hard worker. Then he went into trucking, and he drove a truck. And the boys all went to school. I had 7 sons, so they all went to schools in Alameda.
How many of them went to one of the Peralta colleges later on?
And then 2 of my sons. But I went to each school where they went to school. I was working. So I would work at the elementary school level and then go on until high school, and worked for the admissions office there. And so my sons used to say, you know, are you going to follow us for the rest of our life? We're going to be at college and you're still going to be there. And sure enough, I followed them on to the College of Alameda.
How'd you get the job at College of Alameda?
I was taking a business class and went out on interviews after the end of that class. And
So you took a class at College of Alameda?
yes. Yeah, it was a block program, and you learned, it was sort of to revisit all the things that I knew already, typing and filing and shorthand and all that, and just to brush up on it. So my husband had gotten quite ill, and so then I had to go to work. So I went to work for the health department at first. And so that's why I needed a job, really, and then to help support the family. So anyway, so I went in, and there was a job available there at the mailroom. Never thought I would get that job, you know. I thought I'd be a secretary or something, or a typist. And the different offices that I went to, they said, no, we don't want you here because you're an outward type person. And so you need to work where you'll be with the instructors and the students. And so that was a job I ended up with.
Well, you know, we educate 30,000 students each semester at the Peralta Colleges, and people probably don't realize how much it takes. You need people in the mailroom, you obviously need teachers in the classroom, you need all sorts of folks. But I'm just curious, in the 25 years you were there, did you see a change in the student body? Did you see, obviously society changed a great deal,
Yeah.
but what
Well,
did you see?
for one, I was active with the students in, there was a cheerleading and pom-pom girls and all that, and so I was a mentor sort of to the girls there. And then we started a La Raza group, and we would have different functions there at the college, and so that was good. And they had the Black Student Union, and then the times when things got a little rough and the students would complain and protest. And so we had to be able to adjust to those changes. So that was interesting, along with working, you know, plus doing all the extra stuff with the students. I enjoyed the students, I really did. And when I finally retired, I just hated to leave. I hated to leave because I missed the people there, the instructors. They were all like a second family. And one good thing about the college, there never was prestige of being an administrator and then a manager and an instructor and then the classified. We were all one group, and we would have these retreats. And so I was always active in promoting all that, and it was fun. It was fun, and I still see a lot of the instructors that were there, and we get along really well.
Well, Jay Quesada, thank you so much for all the years you worked at the Peralta Colleges, at College of Alameda.
Thank you.
Specifically, we really appreciate it. And was there anything you wanted to add about the Peralta Retirees Organization?
Just that I'm membership chairperson, and we always need members. So we have different functions. We have the picnic that comes up in September, and then we have the membership luncheon, which is in November.
Okay.
So we would like anybody who's retired to come and join us.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're
We really
welcome.
appreciate it. You're watching Peralta Matters. We'll be back right after this break.
One of the best things about the classes is its hands-on training. You're in there doing it, taking things apart, putting it back together, making sure everything's working right, and learning.
I've always been interested in, you know, working on vehicles and taking stuff apart, and this is the best environment for me to learn how to put them back together.
The outcome for most students is a job in this trade. We have people from all over the industry coming here looking for candidates to fill jobs.
When I finish this course, I'll be able to get an apprenticeship at a shop as a qualified diesel mechanic.
Diesels will always be around right in America, so there's always going to be needing mechanics.
This is Peralta Matters. Welcome back. I'm Jeff Heyman, sitting in for Jay Calhoun. We're honoring Peralta Colleges retirees on today's program for all the years of service, everything they've done for our students. We're talking to a number of retirees. And right now, I have Linda Japzon, who's joined. I understand there's a couple of pronunciations of your last name. So Japzon or Japzon?
Japzon.
So I'll just kind of call you Linda?
Sure.
Thanks for all your work at, you worked at 2 colleges, right? Laney
Yes.
College and College of Alameda.
Exactly.
More than 30 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a long time. Yeah. Well,
I never left school.
you never left school, you went right in. Okay. Now you're a native of the Bay Area, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your background and then how you got started.
Well, I born and raised here in Oakland, and went to all the schools here in Oakland. I went to Franklin in Chinatown, and then went to Lincoln, and McChesney at that time was called McChesney Junior High, and then graduated from Oakland High. And from there, I went to work at Oakland Public Schools. That's why I say I never left school.
That's great. Now, where did you work first, Laney or College of Alameda?
Laney.
Okay. And when did you start there?
Oh dear.
Oh, you don't
I
have
think
to do a long time ago.
1965, I believe.
Okay, so just after the formation of the district.
Yes.
Okay, and you were a secretary, I think you said,
Yes.
in what department?
Office of Instruction.
And what kind of things? What would you do?
Typed up things for the classroom for the instructors,
Okay.
and then got them duplicated.
Okay. Now, in those days, I mean, now everyone's used to being able to, do stuff on the computer, and everything's email and texting and all that. It wasn't like that back then, was it?
Oh no, nothing like that at all. Typing and then taking it over mimeograph machine or ditto machine. Yeah.
Okay. And you had a lot of interaction with students.
Absolutely.
Any favorite students come to mind? Anyone that you can think of over the years that really made a difference, or in whose life you made a difference?
Well, when I transferred over to College of Alameda, I became the Filipino Club advisor. So did a lot of counseling with them, and a lot of activities that they did, and that was my most pride. And then they do come and call and see me every now and then, and they haven't forgotten me.
No, I'm sure that they remember you for many, many years.
Yeah.
Now, when you moved over to College of Alameda, did you get a better job, or you just wanted to change?
No, well, I would say it was a better job. I would say it was a better job. Yeah.
Okay. And it was doing kind of the same thing?
Kind of the same thing at first, and then I got promoted to being a secretary or administrative assistant, whatever you want to call it. And at that time, I was not doing typing up instructors' material. I was more or less running the division.
And how's it feel to work somewhere for more than 30 years, work for an organization? Is that a good feeling?
Oh, absolutely. The most gratification was the students. Having them come in, mentoring them, and seeing them succeed.
And I guess over those years you saw a lot of students succeed.
Sure did.
Did you ever go to the graduations?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell our viewers what it's like to see, I don't know how many graduations you attended, but one every year for almost 30 years.
Oh, I get a little emotional
That's okay.
at graduation, and seeing them graduate is, it's an experience that I will never forget, because at least I touched them in some way.
And they're making something out of their lives.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things and I like to go to graduations for the same reason. And I remember one year we actually had 3 generations of a single family graduate. We had a mother, a grandmother, and a daughter graduate. So it's experiences like that that really make you feel good about what we do here at the Peralta Colleges. Now, over those years, you also saw, I'm sure, changes in society and just changes in technology and everything. Tell us a little about that. What if you think back to when you first started, more than 30 years ago, and then when you retired, what kind of changes really took place?
There was a change in the students. I think that they were more interested in what they were doing.
Over the years, it became
over
more
the
intense.
yes. Actually, students don't really change that much, but in terms of the different from different countries is what I'm trying to say. While I was at College of Alameda, I noticed that there were an awful lot of Asians that were attending.
Okay, so just demographics change and things like that. Well, listen, unfortunately, we're out of time because we're trying to get as many retirees in, but I want to thank you very much, Linda, for all your years of service and everything you did to help students get an education.
I thank you for letting me be here.
Okay, well, thanks so much. Okay, you're watching Peralta Matters. We'll be back right after this.
My first instructor, he wasn't that articulate, but he used to say, you gots to read the book.
The EMT program, it's very intense. If you're not prepared to study, then don't even bother to show up. There's a lot of people in the class who want to be firefighters, myself included.
I want to be a nurse.
Some of them are going to go on to be doctors, like this guy. He's going to be a neurosurgeon.
I want to go to medical school, so this is like you can get some great experience, some great knowledge, and you're going to learn every single part of it.
Bleeding control, CPR, mobilization of the spinal cord. The true skill is the assessment. When they can come in and recognize a cardiac event, recognize a stroke.
You see somebody just sweating and can't breathe very well, and by asking a couple questions, you're able to figure it out, so it makes you feel really good.
I can't teach them everything in here, but if I can just get them started with thinking about assessments, that's the true skill.
Being an EMT just really opens a lot of doors.
And after that, everything falls in place.
I'm Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Join me in watching Peralta TV.
Thank you for viewing Peralta Matters today. We've been talking to our retirees, and we'll be back next week with more stories from Peralta College retirees. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, do something that matters.
Peralta TV, programs that matter. Peralta TV.